Hello and welcome to Return to Regalia, an Underland Chronicles reread podcast. I'm Una.
And I'm Lily.
Today we'll be covering Chapter 20 of The Curse of the Warmbloods, in which Gregor catches up with Luxa and Hamnet fixes Aurora's wing. But first I just wanted to thank all of our listeners for bearing with us for our April Fool's episode last week.
Yeah, what an episode to follow up on. One to beat, truly.
Yeah, it was super fun. Nate and I had a great time recording that one. But now we are back to our regularly scheduled Gregor content. Where we left off, Gregor had been cleaning the quicksand out of Laplood's fur. Chapter 20 begins with everyone waking up and eating a huge breakfast around a campfire that Hamnet builds. Gregor is worried about the fire at first, but Hamnet assures him that the plants aren't dangerous here. Laplood is the only one who doesn't eat, and Hamnet tells Gregor to just let her sleep. I noted that this is reminiscent of the part in Prophecy of Bane when Howard is unconscious after Pandora dies and someone says not to wake him because he has the rest of his life to mourn her.
Aww.
And I think that that's similar here, Hamnet telling Gregor, just let Laplood sleep. She doesn't really need to be awake yet.
Yeah.
Gregor takes Boots swimming in the pool, then she eats more food and plays with Hazard and Temp. Hamnet tends to Gregor's injured feet and Nike's broken claw. This time, when Hamnet offers her medicine for the pain, she accepts, and Gregor thinks this means she must really be hurting. When Hamnet can't find the painkiller in the first aid kit, he asks if someone took it. Gregor notes that it's unlikely any of them did, since Boots and Hazard are just kids and the others wouldn't be able to open the bottle. That's when Gregor realizes that he himself is the most likely suspect, and Hamnet tells him he could have just asked for the medicine. Gregor insists he didn't take it, and Ripred confirms this by smelling Gregor's breath. Love that Ripred is just like a living breathalyzer.
Yeah. For me, this part really emphasized how, little they know each other, and yet, they have to put so much trust in each other.
Yeah.
Constantly.
You mean, between Hamnet and Gregor?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they literally keep saving each other's lives, essentially, and yet, they don't really know each other.
No.
They can trust each other, I guess, to, save each other's lives, but not to be, not self-serving, I guess.
Yeah. To Hamnet, who doesn't know Gregor that well, it's completely reasonable that Gregor would have been the one to steal the medicine, even though we know that he's not that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy, how much after it's been so little time, but they've gone through so much, but they still don't maybe fully trust each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love Hamnet and Gregor's relationship over the course of this book. It's really fascinating to kind of watch the arc of it.
Mm-hmm.
Hamnet apologizes for accusing Gregor and says it doesn't leave them many options. I wasn't really sure what he meant by this. It doesn't leave us many options, because we don't have the pain medicine, we don't have options when, someone gets hurt, or, we don't have options of people to accuse for stealing it? I don't even know.
Yeah.
One of those?
One of those. I mean, I guess I took it as, other places to find it, other explanations.
Yeah, it doesn't leave us explanations of what happened to the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I figured too. Before Gregor can ask what Hamnet means, Boots throws her ball into the jungle, and Gregor volunteers to retrieve it. He makes his way through the vines and eventually finds it and throws it back toward camp. That's when he notices Luxa watching him from up in some vines. He examines a hangnail as he says, "So, you were just going to stand there and watch me die." Instead of apologizing, Luxa explains that she thought Gregor and Ripred were there to attack the Nibblers, who the rats hate. She gives us some history about how the mice sided with the humans in the last war, so the rats drove them into the jungle hoping they would die there. She goes on to reason that since Gregor didn't kill the Bane, it made sense to her to assume he crossed over to the rats' side. Gregor says, "Okay, you got me. I've hooked up with Ripred, and we're taking over the Underland and splitting it 50-50, because, I just can't get enough of the place." He bites off his hangnail, spits it out, and finishes with, "Geez, Luxa." I love this part. Luxa says that even though that seems ridiculous to Gregor, it's basically what her cousin Henry tried to do in the first book.
Fair.
Yeah. Like, she's been burned in the past.
Yeah, and she knew Henry, like, the back of her hand, practically, you know? Like...
Right, that's true.
And she doesn't. I mean, again, like, she doesn't know Gregor all that well.
Yeah. Even though, you know, she almost let him die in quicksand, but, like, also they kind of trust each other with their lives.
Yeah.
And they're friends, but, like, not really. And, like, yeah, you're right that she did trust Henry a whole lot, probably more than she trusts Gregor at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it totally makes sense from her perspective that Gregor could have betrayed her like that.
Yeah. She also doesn't have, like... I mean, Gregor's, like, so unique, as we've talked about, in the way he, like, views the Underland politics. Like, you know, to him, like, the Bane was the baby.
Right.
And that's why he didn't do it. But everyone else was like, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Luxa is looking at it from a very specific perspective of being an Underland human. Her judgment is clouded by prejudice.
Sure.
Gregor declares that he's not Henry and asks about Aurora, who he thinks is probably the only person Luxa really trusts. Luxa explains that Aurora's wing has been pulled out of its socket and she can't fly. Gregor realizes that Luxa was the one who stole the pain medicine, and Luxa says she didn't know Nike needed it and she'll bring some back. Gregor suggests that her uncle tend to Aurora's injury, but Luxa doesn't respond. Gregor thinks about how Luxa and Hamnet didn't make great first impressions on each other. Realizing that Luxa won't be able to ask Hamnet herself, Gregor offers to do it for her if she comes with him. She slides down a vine and lands next to him, looking sad and tired, and it's hard for Gregor to stay mad at her. I just love how much throughout the series Gregor is, like, repeatedly, like, he'll get angry at someone, and then he'll change his mind when he, like, takes into consideration what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, like, lets go of that anger really easily.
Yeah.
I really admire that.
It's a good quality, for sure.
Gregor asks how she got the scar on her face, and she says she got it from a rat in the labyrinth. He thanks her for saving Boots back then, and when Luxa tries to brush it off and say it was all Temp, Gregor says, "It was Temp who ran. It was you who fought so he could." I love that line. Like, yeah, Temp was the one to get Boots out of there, but, like, Luxa made that possible, so she's responsible for saving Boots' life.
It's funny how, like, so few people want to take responsibility for, like, saving other people in this series.
Luxa's just trying to be humble over here.
Yeah, but I feel like this happened, like, before, where people are like, nah, like, I didn't really do much.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just indicative of, like, how common it is to save people's lives.
That's true, yeah. Everyone's always in danger, so people are saving each other pretty commonly, I guess.
Like, I just, like, picked up a thing at the grocery store for you. Like, it's no big deal. I just saved your life.
Yeah. I wonder if Luxa is brushing this off because she feels uncomfortable at Gregor owing her for saving Boots' life. Like, Luxa doesn't want, at this point, like, she doesn't want to be connected to Gregor in that way and, like, beholden to him, or, like, have him beholden to her.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just like, no, it was Temp. I didn't have anything to do with it. You don't need to owe me. You don't need to, like, I wasn't part of it. But it's like, no, Luxa, you and Gregor are entangled and always will be.
Now kiss. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, yeah. That's what my 10-year-old self reading these books was like.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them go get Hamnet, and Luxa leads them to the cave where Aurora is recuperating. She's lying on her belly with one wing extended at an odd angle, and her eyes seem dull and remote from the painkiller. Luxa explains that Aurora's wing has been out of its socket for weeks, and Hamnet isn't optimistic that they can fix it entirely. Have you ever had a joint out of its socket before?
No, I'm so glad I haven't.
Same, yeah, I have not.
It sounds literally awful.
Yeah, I have a friend who's, like, hypermobile, and he like, anytime he does sports, there's a risk that he'll just, like, get his shoulder out of its socket or something.
I would simply not play sports.
Same.
I don't play sports anyways, but yeah. I would even more not play sports.
Exactly. Yup, absolutely.
Yeah, the only thing that's happened to me is, like, I've sprained/broken my ankle. They weren't sure. Mm-hmm. And that sucked.
Yeah.
It sucks to be, like, in a brace for a prolonged period of time. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I lucked out, so.
Yeah. I think I've never like broken a bone for real. I guess I had like a small fracture in my wrist in middle school because I tried to do a handstand in gym class.
No.
I like fell over, but I fell on top of my wrist and like twisted it underneath me, and it was like a really bad sprain. And I had a little like Velcro brace for a while, but I've never had a cast before. But yeah, no, that kind of thing like freaks me out too. Like I get squeamish when I think about it too much. So I'm so glad I don't have that issue of like joints coming out of their sockets.
Yeah.
Willy-nilly.
Oh my gosh, I know, right?
They try to get Aurora into a standing position, but she shrieks in pain. Luxa asks if they can keep her lying down, but Hamnet insists and instructs Gregor to hold on to Aurora. Gregor apologizes for having to grab handfuls of her fur, but Aurora just remarks on the fact that he's here and asks if Ares is too. Gregor tells her that Ares has the plague, and even through her haze, Aurora seems horrified. Hamnet tells them to brace themselves and yanks on Aurora's wing. Gregor loses his grip and it doesn't work. When Aurora cries out, Luxa screams at Hamnet to stop. Hamnet catches her wrists and tells her if she wants Aurora to make it out of here alive, this is necessary. He tells her to wait outside the cave, but she refuses to leave. This must be, like, so hard for her. Just, like, she's had to, live for weeks and weeks, like months, I think, in the jungle with Aurora, like, seeing her best friend in pain every day. Like, that sucks. Sucks for Aurora, but, like, also Luxa is just, like, having to go through this.
Yeah.
It probably feels like a really helpless situation for both of them.
Totally.
I can't imagine being Aurora, being like a flyer who can't fly, In the fourth book, there's a scene where they're in like a cave with air currents that are like preventing the bats from flying correctly, and it like the wind like pushes them around in a way that like makes them freak out a whole lot. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the series because it really illustrates like how much the bats like flying is like breathing for them, and when they can't do it, they really freak out about it. So I bet that Aurora is just like in a lot of like mental anguish as well as physical anguish right now.
Yeah, totally. She lost like her entire freedom and is in a crap ton of pain.
Right. And she's just stuck in this cave the whole time. Yeah, that's no good. I also like that Hamnet tries to make Luxa wait outside because she can't, like, control herself when Aurora is in pain, and Luxa's like, no, I'm not leaving. Mm-hmm. There's no way. And she, like, makes herself, like, back up against the wall of the cave and, like, be quiet. Mm-hmm. It just reminds me of, like, so many hospital dramas where, like, the patient's wife or whoever is, like, going nuts in the hallway and is like, I need to see him, or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Luxa doesn't have a whole lot of, like, family and friends left at this point.
No.
So, yeah, this is probably a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Hamnet tells Gregor to hold on tighter, and the next time he yanks on Aurora's wing, Gregor manages to keep his grip. The wing pops back into place, and Aurora gasps in relief. Hamnet tells her it's not completely healed yet, and if she uses it again too quickly, it might dislocate again, but the pain is much less now. Luxa presses her face into Aurora's fur, and Gregor thinks she must be crying. Hamnet says he'll check back in on her later, and before he leaves, he picks up the pain medicine and returns it to the pack. I love that he doesn't even mention the pain medicine. Mm-hmm. Like, he totally could have been like, never steal from me again, or whatever, like, or just, like, try and reprimand her for that, like, how he did with the quicksand thing. Mm-hmm. But I think Hamnet probably understands what Luxa just had to go through, like, watching Aurora be in pain, and, like, yeah.
And how desperate she was.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. As they walk back to camp, Hamnet says to Gregor, "You know my niece better than I. What manner of person would you say she is?" Gregor struggles to describe her, but ends up telling Hamnet about how he thought she was stuck up when he first met her, but once she wasn't around Henry all the time, they sort of became friends. Gregor thinks of all the times Luxa saved his life, like when she killed the rat Shed and destroyed the spiderweb funnel in Book 1. He says, "She's brave as anybody I've ever known, and I know this might sound crazy, what with the quicksand thing and all, but I trust her with my life." Hamnet admits this does sound crazy, but he smiles. I love that. Like, even though Gregor just had a very, like, clear evidence that Luxa was ready to let him die. He's like, no, I forgive her. I still owe her my life, and I still, like, trust her. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's also smiling because, like, what Gregor and Luxa have is kind of like a sibling relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if he's, like, thinking about, like, his relationship with her mom.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, I wonder if what Gregor has just said about Luxa here reminds Hamnet of Judith, and he's, like, smiling because it's like, wow, she's just like her mom or something. Like, that would be so sweet.
Yeah, it really would.
When they get back to camp and give Nike some pain medicine, she says she's been trying to unravel the prophecy and wonders if she'll have better luck now that her head is all foggy. Hamnet has Gregor recite the repeating stanza from the prophecy a few times, and Boots starts dancing along to the words, spinning in a half circle every time they say the word turn. In reference to the line that says, "You see the what, but not the when," Gregor asks, "So what's the what?" Ripred suggests the what is the plague, and Nike thinks the when could be a lot of different things, like when the plague began, when the cure will be found, or when the last Warmblood will die. And she's actually kind of right in terms of her first two suggestions. I don't know if you remember much of the ending of this book, but they all think that the plague began when Ares got bitten by the flesh-eating mites on the Bane trip, and that the cure will be found in the Vineyard of Eyes, but we will soon learn that neither of those is correct. So Nike saying that the when could be when the plague began and when the cure will be found is, like, true, actually. Like, that's the part of this whole mystery that they're not seeing. Hamnet asks about the plant that's supposed to be the cure, Starshade, and Gregor draws it for him. So they agree that the Starshade is the remedy in the prophecy, but no one can figure out what the wrong is. Everyone gets ready for bed, and Hamnet helps Luxa get Aurora out of the cave so she can sleep alongside Nike. Luxa says another flyer will bring her comfort, and Gregor thinks Luxa could probably use some human company too. Luxa says they're joining the questers on the journey to the vineyard, and Gregor briefly considers mentioning how dangerous it's supposed to be, then realizes it won't matter to Luxa.
True.
Nothing is even gonna faze her anymore. She's been living off the land and the jungle this entire time.
I know, right?
After a good long sleep, the group gets ready for the last leg of their journey. Gregor tries to get Boots onto Temp's back, but she's distracted by her new prophecy dance. She says, "Turn and turn and turn again," and ends up facing backward. The chapter ends with Gregor picking her up and setting her on Temp's back, saying, "No, Boots, that way leads to Regalia. Come on, the cure's this way."
Dun, dun, dun.
It's great foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I love how it just, like, sets up the significance of Boots' little dance for, like, what we're gonna get in a few chapters when they, you know, bust the whole prophecy wide open. It's the best plot twist, too. I remember, like, when I was a kid reading this, like, even in the second book, when the plot twist is that the Bane is, like, a baby, like, that really got me. I remember that getting to me as a kid. But this book's plot twist, that, like, the cure is in Regalia, that really blew everything out of the water.
Totally.
Because it makes you just, like, think about the underland humans in an entirely different way.
Yeah, no, really good plot twist.
I can't wait to get to it in a couple chapters.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it again.
Yeah, any other thoughts about this chapter? I know it was short, but
it's a good one.
It's a good one.
We saw some, like, good emotion, good tension, good foreshadowing.
Yes. I love this catch-up scene between Gregor and Luxa, because it's the first time that they've, like, been alone since a while. And just them, like, speaking plainly to each other and not dancing around the issue, and Gregor just being like, "So you were gonna let me die?" And it's not even a question, he just, like, states it outright. And Luke's is like, "Yeah, well, this is why," and then, like, lays it out for him, and he's kind of like, "Yeah, that kind of makes sense from her perspective.
Yeah.
It's not right, but I can see where she's coming from," and he's able to just let that go.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. He's a super cool character. I feel like this chapter made me think a lot of, like, about how many different, like, types of characters and different kinds of skills there are, too, like, in this group of people.
Oh, yeah?
I was just thinking, like, it's kind of like a D&D campaign. We've got, like, the healer, we've got you know, the ranger and the fighters.
Yes.
And then, like, Boots is the bard.
Yeah, you're so right. Oh my god, she is, though.
Mm-hmm.
Which is Gregor, what class would he play in D&D?
I mean, I guess technically, like, he's a magic wielder in some senses, right?
Yeah. Oh, isn't there, like, a barbarian class that has, like,
Yes.
a rager power?
Yep.
Yeah. You play more D&D than I do, so you would know.
I don't know too much about the classes. I don't know, like, some of the ways that, like, some characters think about the world is, like, cleric-like, too. Just because clerics are, like, religion-based normally, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, some of them are, like, very spiritual, or, like, focused on the prophecies.
Do you think that Hamnet fits into that?
I guess I thought of him as a healer.
Maybe not quite a cleric, but
maybe not.
he's like some type of healer.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super. I play a druid and I'm happy about that.
Hamnet's got some druid qualities because
That's true.
Out there in the forest.
He's like snakeskin shoes.
Yeah, he's communing with nature. Yeah.
Yeah, could be.
I have been kicking around the idea of making a, like, Underland Chronicles homebrew D&D campaign.
Sign me up.
You would be down?
I'm so interested, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day, like, you would have to pick a species, and you could be, like, a rat or a bat or a human, and then the different classes could be, like, rager, like, soldier, healer.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have been thinking that we could do some sort of, like, fun bonus episode where I just throw together some little mini campaign and get you guys on a quest.
That'd be so fun, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I could have a lot of fun with it.
I think we all would, for sure.
I will think more on that. Anyone who's listening who has more, like, D&D experience, who has any, like, suggestions for what we could add to the campaign, let me know. I played D&D as a kid because our neighbor's dad would, like, host campaigns for us, like a kid-friendly, like, version of D&D. But that's basically, like, all of my D&D experience. I just listened to a lot of, like, the Adventure Zone podcast, so that's most of my knowledge. I did try and be the dungeon master for a game with Nate, John, and Aaron.
Oh, that's fun.
And we did, like, one session, and then I never got around to writing more, because it's really hard to be a DM.
Yeah, I mean, there are millions and millions of, like, prefabs.
Yeah.
For sure.
We should have done that. I'm, like, such a writer, though. I need to, like, come up with the campaign.
That's fair.
But I feel like it would be really fun for Underland Chronicles, because you'd be, like, writing a little fan fiction together.
Yeah, that'd be cute.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'll keep you updated as I come up with ideas for that. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me, Lily.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Next week's episode will cover Chapter 21. Find us on Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube at Return to Regalia, all one word. Thank you for listening, and until next time, fly you high.